Welcome back to Absolutely. My name is Benny, that is Sal, and that is Dylan. And today we're going to be doing what is probably going to be a rather negative overall opinion. We're going to be discussing Phase 4. With the official announcements that Phase 4 is complete, we're going to look at each and every one of these and decide what they did to the MCU. Were they just a weird passion project? What happened? And just what was this phase? Because that's really what this is going to be about, because I feel like nothing led anywhere.
Nope.
From Phase 4, looking at this as being the beginning of the Multiverse saga, okay?
Yeah.
We have Loki implied the multiverse is a thing. That's all they did. They just showed the converging lines.
And created it.
Yeah, I think
for
it
what it's
birthed,
worth.
or
Yeah.
you know what's funny? They say that it birthed it, but at the same time, like it's been around forever. It's not like it's not like Loki created the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, you know? Like
No.
Right.
But time is a flat circle, so it ripples both ways.
Exactly. Like Loki did no. Loki and and He Who Remains did that at the beginning of time.
Oh, so it's kind of like Flash. Barry Allen created the Speed Force.
Exactly.
Yes,
He's the lightning bolt. Yeah.
Okay. And then we ignored it. We didn't touch on it. We didn't do anything until Spider-Man No Way Home, which was probably the biggest ramifications of the multiverse.
Yes.
Right.
Biggest movie from Marvel, and it wasn't even from Marvel.
Which is weird because the other one's titled Multiverse of Madness, and they went to like two worlds, barely touched on the multiverse.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't really important. Just kind of
It really wasn't mad. It wasn't a mad multiverse.
Which, that's the weird thing, too, is like in No Way Home, the multiverse is set dressing also, but the difference there is that Peter has such a stronger, like kind of down-to-earth character arc in that movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to in Doctor Strange, where it's just all over the place.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
right.
no, it made me sad because I was like thinking about, it didn't make me sad, but I was actually really happy about, like in retrospect, thinking about how intimate No Way Home is, despite its multiversal ramifications. It's about a kid and his guilt. That's it. Whereas Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness is about, like, you know, it's trying to be about Doctor Strange being in love, but you know, but nobody cared about that. Like, no one was talking about Christine Palmer. And I think if ever Christine Palmer comes up in conversation, they're like, why did you waste so much time on this thing that no one cares about?
Right. And I first thought is if there was 3 movies involved in the multiverse and 3 other movies that didn't, okay, that's not a bad ratio.
True.
But we had 3 movies that directly touched on the multiverse, and only one of them was directly involving, hey, these guys are from all these different worlds, and look at it shattering. We can see them all in the clouds.
Totes.
That was madder than the multiverse of madness. But then we had WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, the Eternals, Moon Knight, Thor, She-Hulk, Wakanda Forever, and Miss Marvel are all not in the... They don't even reference it. Maybe they will as She-Hulk and Wakanda.
We don't know yet, but...
But what they're based on, it doesn't seem like they will. Okay, let's just... So there's 8 that we know for a fact don't reference it. 2 that probably don't.
Probably
What
not
If
on
also
here.
is significant.
Why is that not on there either?
I don't know. I Am Groot is
4.
also not on here, so...
What else isn't on there?
Well, I Am Groot. That's
Groot.
fine.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to count, though. I think that's just a fun, like, Pixar
It's a
thing.
one-off, yeah.
But I'll give it to you. Okay, so we have I Am Groot's probably not going to do the multiverse, so that gives us 9 that we know, 8 that we know do not have the multiverse. 2 that probably don't have 3 that probably don't have the multiverse. That's 11 movies and shows. And then we have 4 that are directly referencing there being a multiverse, and only What If and Spider-Man really play with the multiverse.
Right.
The best part about the multiverse of Doctor Strange is the Illuminati and Pizza Papa. So
that's true.
Pizza Papa always gets paid.
That's right. But Multiverse of Madness does introduce the significant problem that I think the central issue, you know, whereas the Infinity Saga was all about collecting rocks, this one is going to be all about incursions. So Multiverse of Madness does talk about incursions.
I think the issue, like early as Phase 1 and 2, there was only 6 movies.
Yeah.
And all of them were affected by the Cosmic Cube or the Tesseract
Right, but they didn't know that they were rocks yet. Like they
right,
were
and it was
like,
almost a genius because we just kept running into these powerful things. But I really doubt we're going to go back to Eternals and be like, well, the Celestials are actually from the multiverse. Shang-Chi, your bands are actually from the multiverse.
I think
we don't know
Black
about
Widow.
Shang-Chi because at least Shang-Chi did have a post-credit scene that I just read an article like yesterday that said like that baffling post-credit scene is even more baffling now. And I'm like, I guess it is kind of baffling because like, why is Hulk so old? Why does he have a bad arm when he doesn't in She-Hulk? Like, what is this whole team doing? what is the beacon in Shang-Chi's rings?
But you know what? I'll give you a better, most likely not going to come out as Multiverse later. Yelena Belova is not going to come out as being a multiversal Black Widow. Okay, I'm just
No, just
Black Widow had
Widow.
nothing to do with that.
You could say that like a lot of the like what Sal was saying about the incursions being like kind of the important part here, because that's what is going to eventually lead to Secret Wars, which is the new Thanos or Kang, whatever.
Yeah.
Is like each movie, like you could say in Eternals at least, like a Celestial coming to Earth, like, and you could also argue that like, hey, we haven't heard about that Celestial since then. Maybe Eternals takes place on a different universe, and the Celestial coming there like triggered an incursion or something.
Yes.
I mean, that could be what they're going to play off of and be like, Eternals is a separate universe, Shang-Chi's a separate universe, even Hawkeye could possibly. I mean, you could say all of these were separate universes this entire phase. And at least then they would play into the overall theme. But I don't see that happening. And if it does, I think it'll be very confusing.
Yeah.
Like, Moon Knight. No one ever mentioned the giant Khonshu god battling against the other god in the middle of Egypt. No one mentioned the Celestial sunk in the ocean to the north in Eternals. Like,
yeah, nobody talked about that.
I think there is, at least if we're talking about like tying these in more, I don't think She-Hulk's going to have anything to do with the multiverse at all. Miss Marvel, like, sort of did, at least from like a thematic standpoint. It was more about dimensions, not realities. But Black Panther, there is the question of who's the next Black Panther. They could easily flip that switch and say multiverse. Somebody who looks different.
Multiversal Killmonger.
Or
multiversal T'Challa, just like recast.
Right.
Like they could do both. They could have their cake and eat it too, where it's like, we don't want to recast Black Panther in this universe, but we do have the multiverse to draw from.
Yeah. That does sound like a very Disney decision to like sidestep it just enough so that they can cover their ass on all sides of people who are like, just recast T'Challa. Or the same people on the opposite side, they're like, if you recast T'Challa, it's a little bit disrespectful. Like, then you're like, well, we didn't do any of those. We didn't do either. We still have T'Challa,
but we still got money. I mean, I can definitely see them doing that. I mean, like, listen, and there's a precedent for that, by the way. Like in the Spider-Man comic, there's a great sequence in which 616 Peter goes to the Ultimate Universe where Ultimate Peter's dead. And he gives closure to like Aunt May and Gwen,
right? Yeah.
And it's like, that's really cool, and it would be interesting to see that explored in a future Black Panther film, where it's like a multiversal displaced variant of Black Panther T'Challa coming in and being like, you know, in my reality, Thanos ruined Wakanda and killed all of you. In this reality, I died. You know, like I don't know. Like one could see that explored and have it be not like just cheap, but. Again, we're not writing these things. I don't know what they're going to do, but I we'll see.
So that leads me to the question, though, because since the beginning, I think nothing from Phase 4 has really made us be like, oh my God, have you guys seen outside of Spider-Man? Spider-Man, which I love, is like almost center on the frame that we're looking at here. Yeah. Like it's just it's right there in the middle.
Right. I should say I was very hyped to see Kingpin in Hawkeye.
Fine, but you didn't know what was happening. Okay, I'll give you that one. So we got Spider-Man and Hawkeye, which had both really big moments.
There were moments.
WandaVision had ups and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think all of this was very, like, this whole phase is a roller coaster. Like, back watching Hawkeye as it was coming out was like, oh my God, are they doing Kingpin? Like, because that's the first time where this is before No Way Home. It's like, they're bringing Daredevil back.
Right.
And then we get confirmation of it in the show. And that was such a fun, like, the show overall is like, it's fun, but it's not fun. Like anything special.
No, and I think that's the problem with this whole, because if you look back at the way we treated every single one of these, none of these I'm going to sit here and be like, you should never watch insert whichever show.
Right.
But at the same time, I probably will not be rewatching WandaVision, Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals.
Yeah, I'm not rewatching any of these
Doctor
movies.
Strange.
I might rewatch Eternals because I'm one of the few people who liked it, but I will.
I liked it, but I'm not going to rewatch it. I don't think it was that good. Is my argument.
Yeah, I'm not. I
like everything I just named, but I'm not going to rewatch it.
I have rewatched Loki. I want to rewatch Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Me too.
And I kind of want to rewatch Hawkeye. And I've rewatched No Way Home like 4 times. But
same.
That's a different beast. But also, what I was going to say earlier is the only other thing like in Phase 4 that I think got me as excited as No Way Home were the first 3 episodes of Miss Marvel. And and that like didn't turn out well.
Yeah.
But again, like that's indicative of like
and that's what I'm
everything.
saying. All of these did that. Like Hawkeye, I was mostly excited for most of the episodes. Loki, I enjoyed most of the episodes. Or Turtles, I enjoyed the movie, but nothing with it stayed with me. WandaVision, I enjoyed the second half. Miss Marvel, I enjoyed the first half. And that's part of the problem. There's so much content they put out.
Yeah.
Like Phase 5, what we haven't known already is not even this many.
No.
No.
No, and
like
remember that graph that came out that was like, each phase was like a certain amount of hours, and it was like Phase 4 was like 600 hours in comparison, because they're shows, and how Phase 5 will be drastically reduced, and it's like, yeah, good, like
good.
This is a period. It's like the during COVID like greed period of of the MCU where they're like, we need to start focusing on this $1 billion app we made, and whether we can get away with like taking just movie properties that were on like the cutting room floor or Feige's maybe to-do pile, and going, not only are we going to do them, but make that movie that should be like respectably like 90 to 120 minutes and make it 7 hours. And it's like, because Moon Knight, again, like all the criticisms we had about most of these things are just like, man, Loki is great, except for that one episode. So it's like, just trim it.
Right.
Like, man, Ms. Marvel would have been great, but it could have been trim. Like, Moon Knight
was great,
could have been
it
could have been a great 110-minute long movie.
Yep.
Hey, how did that Obi-Wan recut go, Dylan? Like, is it better? Like, does people like it?
It's much better.
Maybe you should recut Moon Knight, make a movie out of that damn thing.
So I want to lead to that being the problem, because I know that this is going to be kind of a negative thing, because we're not sitting here praising much of Phase 4.
Well, and that's it. Like, it's not like criticism is not negativity. It's not like we're saying like they were bad. We're saying that like they could have been better. We've seen better, and we're expecting better coming up. But Phase 4 was not immune to criticism, and in fact was actually more open to it because of its like kind of drawing board phase. Because it's like, yo, you're at Phase 4. Like, Phase 1 through 3, they seem to have it on pretty solid lockdown. And now you're like figuring it out. Like, what do you mean
Phase
figuring it out?
4 right now has 16 products in it.
Oh,
Phase 5 has 12.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is
But I will say,
bringing it down.
I was looking at that too. I will say that I think they both have the same amount of shows.
Yeah.
No,
but
there's one
at
less
least-
in Phase 5. I counted them.
Good.
There's one. Okay.
There's 7
But
in
I was
Phase
gonna
4,
say
there's
also,
6
like
in
on
Phase
top
5.
of that, like they're clearly different because Daredevil is an 18-episode show. That's going to be different than the Disney Plus stuff. Loki season 2 is a season 2 of a show that worked. Like Secret Invasion, we don't know what's going to be. Echo, Ironheart, and Agatha are the ones that are like, what are they going to do?
Why?
With that? Yeah.
We're like, who is this for? Like, I get what. Like, I think we all know what Daredevil Born Again is for. You know?
Yeah.
The audience that was
For me.
hashtag saving Daredevil. Like,
Yes.
but like, who asked for Agatha?
No.
Well, I mean, looking at this list, Agatha and Echo are going to, and Ironheart are going to be the testers this time.
They announced that Echo.
They've got 3 testers that are going to be questionable if they do well.
Yeah.
While
3 probably
on the first
good
stuff,
bets.
we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah.
7.
They're kind of all testers because
I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I think they announced an Echo show before Echo even appeared on screen.
Yep. No, they did.
I believe
And
so.
that's kind of presumptuous, don't you think? Like, what if she
Right.
sucks? Or what if nobody cares? Which, like, she doesn't suck, but she's not. There wasn't enough there for me to go, man, I really need more Echo.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was so convinced it was going to turn into a Daredevil show. But when
We all
they
were.
finally showed him up, but
But we
now he's
talked
getting his
about
own
how-
show. So
Yeah. Yeah, but
It's
we
a weird
figured that
decision,
out because it
but-
would be really inappropriate for them to do that. It's like, hey, we've got this like person of color,
Right.
differently
No, it's
abled
Daredevil.
superhero, and actually we're just gonna make it like a Punisher show. Like, it would just be like, what? Like,
Right, by the way,
yeah.
never mind.
No,
I feel like it's
actually
going to be
the
a
opposite.
backdoor Daredevil show anyway.
Oh, yeah,
Kinda
no,
like
Charlie Cox
Boba Fett was
probably.
just a backdoor Mandalorian.
Kingpin's in
but-
it, Daredevil's in it. I wouldn't be surprised if Punisher showed up in the damn thing. Like, I yeah.
That'd be so cool.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think happened in Phase 4, though? Because my overall problem with Phase 4 is it just felt directionless.
Yes.
And even though we know what it's a part of now, it still feels like all of that was directionless.
Yeah. Well,
think
like, was it
on-
directionless? Because, like you said, there's at least 4 multiversal projects that all
Right.
came out around the same time. So, like, we
Such a-
knew that they were
broad
thinking about that.
direction, though.
It was an attempt.
But it was
Loki,
4 out of 16. 16 properties, 4 of them related to the multiverse.
No, yeah,
the
Shang-Chi had nothing to do with that.
The other 12 had their own stuff going on, be it a street level battle, be it a celestial battle, be it Egyptian gods, be it a fourth wall breaking She-Hulk. I mean, we don't know what these things are going to do.
No, it's
that's
true.
the strange thing. They had such a good opportunity to say, hey, we're gonna split stuff now because we've had the huge Endgame. We married both the cosmic and the street level, and we did this big blowout.
If they ever really did a street level, which I don't think they did.
No,
I would argue
but
they never really had street level. But
Earth and cosmic. But now
Earth and cosmic,
they could. Yeah. Now they could split them and have them do 2 different tentpoles, and that's
Yes.
I was talking about this with Hassan on our theory video. Is I think that Secret Wars is going to be the Avengers movie, and the Kang Dynasty is going to be the Young Avengers movie. So they're going to be split, and they could have set that up really well here, where it's half of it's multiverse, dealing with that, explaining that, having Kang sit there from the beginning and be the new Thanos, and then the other half is doing what they've been doing with building the Young Avengers, but do it a little more grounded and a little more obvious.
Yeah.
And
You just mentioned a key point, though.
Yeah.
You just mentioned it. Do you think that what could have fixed Phase 4, as far as not making it feel directionless, was post-credit scenes on everything, shows included, involving something with Kang?
Yeah.
Kang
I think
is
it would've
somehow
helped.
involved.
Just connecting it would have helped. But I also
Yeah.
I like the direction Dylan was going in, where remember when in the comics New Avengers came about, and it was about street level heroes facing Avengers level threats, but the undercurrent was Secret Invasion coming up, right? That was the big undercurrent. That was the big through line, was the Secret Invasion. And that linked it, and it was that cosmic threat, but for our heroes who are by and large street level. And wouldn't it have been cool to see Phase 4 set up our not larger than life heroes, setting up, Spider-Man notwithstanding, but Spider-Man, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, everybody who is on the Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel maybe, because while she will be while she's literally going to space and dealing with the other cosmic Marvel characters, she is a street level character. But setting up these street level characters and then being we're going in 2 different directions. Maybe they'll coalesce in Secret Wars because it'd be fun to see. But for the most part, the audience is going to get an option. Do you like the Infinity Saga and all the stuff that came with it? Well, don't worry, because we got these characters. But but we know you're going to and that would have been a great opportunity for Shang-Chi to be a street level character, but to set up the grounded concrete jungle street level characters and have them go on more grounded adventures and set up their own kind of Avengers vehicle where it ends up being they're dealing with maybe it's Secret Invasion, but also maybe it's just Mayor Fisk, just something
something small
that is
for
a
the
grounding problem.
Do you think Phase 4 is going to make more sense moving forward? Look at it this way. What if WandaVision... Well, hold on. Before you give me this is a nope, Sal. Let me finish.
All right.
Nope.
Because WandaVision technically was setting up the concepts within Loki, and Loki was technically setting up the concepts that broke Spider-Man, and Spider-Man technically set up Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And that could be our multiverse saga.
Yeah.
But what if Eternals is setting up Black Knight and Blade, Moon Knight's going to be attached to that, and they're a supernatural side. Just because we have the multiverse saga doesn't mean that there aren't other storylines happening within. Yeah. And I feel like what could be going wrong here is what happens in the Marvel comics where you don't know what's attached to what.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't say multiverse saga underneath WandaVision, Loki, Spider-Man, and Multiverse. Right. And then it says supernatural or Midnight Suns underneath Eternals,
Marvel
Moon
Knights.
Knight, Blade. Yeah.
Right.
And then, in Marvel Knights for Shang-Chi, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, would that help?
Eternals makes no mention of the multiverse and is only about, those cosmic level characters who are grounded in reality, or at least on Earth, who are dealing with Celestials, but then has the foresight to include not just Blade, Black Knight, but also Star Fox and Pip the Troll. Yeah, and the characters that are not multiversal in nature, but also are cosmic in nature. It's that last scene in Guardians 2 where it's the Ravagers or the we're there, and it's we got magic based characters and Nighthawk and stuff, and it's we're probably not gonna get that movie because it was just a one off. But in this, we will get a Black Knight something or other, we will be getting Star Fox in something or other, But
do you think that Kevin Feige is actually setting up the multiple arcs, like you said, Dylan?
No.
but we're not being promoted as that right now.
I think the problem is like because we haven't really seen something like an insular phase arc since Phase 1. Like Phase 1 led to the Avengers, and then Thanos happened. It's like, oh, this is what it was actually leading towards. And then Phase 2 and 3 were mostly like Phase 2 kind of was just like it was
Sequels.
it was kind of more grounded. We were like Infinity Stones leading to Civil War. And then Phase 3 is like, okay, now it's exploded. Let's do all this.
Right.
And then like that's the problem with Phase 4 is like when you only have like a fourth of your movies pointing towards this extremely vague concept of the multiverse.
Yeah.
And on top of that, most of them just aren't very good, like script wise.
Yeah.
You're starting to run into issues with like this doesn't work on its own. And maybe it'll work much later when we have a lot more properties figured out of where people are going. But like,
Right.
there's just so many post-credit scenes that I can't see going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, at least from what we know right now.
I think that's the problem with Phase 4. Like, there's so much going on. There are 4 out of 16 that bring up Multiverse Saga. Like, what does Shang-Chi have to do with the multiverse?
No, and that's the thing, is like the end of Shang-Chi, they set up this like weird Avengers movie or something that we have no idea what is. At the end of Moon Knight, they set up a second season that we're probably never gonna get. Like,
oh no.
Oh, the Jake Lockley,
yeah, like there's just a lot of like Eternals.
Black
I don't
Widow
know where that's
set
gonna go.
Black Widow set up a scene from an earlier time period to make
that
make sense.
Right, the Thunderbolts stuff. Like, at least we know Thunderbolts is coming
now. Or the
now,
Red
at least.
Guard. You know, like we have we have the Red Guardian. There's Ursa Major. Like we have other stuff being introduced in those movies.
Yeah.
And I genuinely, when I saw Star Fox at the end of Eternals, I was like, you don't have a plan. Like,
no,
you don't have a plan. Like, what? Spoilers for Thor: Love and Thunder, but like Hercules. What is your plan?
Yeah, where is that
You
going?
know what the best part about that is? It says in the ending, Thor will return with the Hercules cutscene. Apparently, apparently Chris Hemsworth and Taika
Waititi. Yeah, they didn't know.
Taika Waititi. They didn't know. They didn't put that in the movie.
No. I mean, like, that's kind of impressive and like presumptuous of Disney's part. They're like, we'll be able to get him in. Like, we're paying him money. It'll be fine.
I'm just picturing Chris Hemsworth like, no, there's not another movie in this contract.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to pay through the nose. And they're like, we will.
Yeah.
We will.
You're Thor. We'll get you back.
Yeah. I kind of really wanted a movie where it was Thor, like Viking Thor from the end of Endgame, where he's like, you know,
I watched Infinity War last night, and the scene where, like, just talking about different versions of Thor we've gotten in the MCU, the scene where he's sitting and talking to Rocket about how he's lost everyone in his life, but like he's got to fight, he's got to keep up and kill Thanos. That is better than any one scene in Love and Thunder.
That's right.
Okay, I could slightly fix Love and Thunder with the current thing going around that was stated by, God damn it can't. Taquito.
Taika Waititi?
Taquito Waititi. That whole movie is Korg telling the story.
Right. It's an embellishment. It's not.
It's an embellishment. Hence, like Stormbreaker being.
I don't
upset.
care.
I'm just saying.
Don't like that. Like, I don't want to be I don't want to watch a movie and go, none of that happened. By the way, that was all fake. Like
no. the Iron Man 3 technically is Iron Man telling the story
to Hulk.
Yeah, Bruce Banner, but like it's still like it doesn't alter in any way.
We should trust the narrator in that regard.
Right. This isn't Joker.
But anyway, so that we don't overly ramble about Phase 4, I think what we could agree on is that all the post-credits, nothing was linking together, which was creating like, I want to say almost like a begrudging like hatred within the MCU fandom, because we all wanted to. What they set up after Phase 1 was that this will go in a comic book style to a big thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So coming out of Endgame, I think we were all looking at everything in Phase 4 like, what's the big thing? I want all these individuals. They're all great, but I want the big thing. I want to be excited for something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think that's sad because, like, it didn't need to be a big thing. It could have been just a bunch of stuff that happened. But that stuff that happened needed to be really exciting or really well executed. And it's like...
Well, it happens after events in comics. When comics wrap up the event, we then get a bunch of really exciting storylines right afterwards before the next big thing happens.
Yeah.
Phase 4 should have been at least like my Phase 4 is the first half of it is showing interesting stuff post Endgame. We see, and we kind of saw that. We saw like stuff during the blip and how characters are dealing with the fallout of either being gone for 5 years or having everyone come back after 5 years.
Yep.
And then that slowly leads into Secret Invasion. And Secret Invasion is the thing that ends Phase 4. Right. And then that, you know, toe heels in, like, small things go into Multiverse, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Maybe you tie that in somehow. But and I think, like, you don't need a huge tentpole, right? We had that for a while, and that's why everyone, like, that's one of the reasons why everyone liked it. But also a reason everyone liked those movies in the Infinity Saga was because they were well written and well made. Yep. And you can kind of excuse a lot of like Ant-Man comes out and it's not really about like tied into really anything, but it's still like a fun movie. So you're like, oh, who cares? It's just like a fun romp. Same with Guardians. Guardians obviously has huge ties later, and that's the first time we get the name of Infinity Stone Thanos progression. But for the most part, that's just a movie about the Guardians. And that's, we don't like, there is stuff in Phase 4 that is just like Shang-Chi is just, that's a movie about Shang-Chi, and it works for the most part because of that. But then there's there's a lot of shows and a lot of movies that just didn't get the time that they needed to develop into something quality. And that's coupled with there being no direction is, I think, what killed Phase 4.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I mean, we could chalk up the quality to COVID, but I also feel like Disney's moved into a realm where they're like, all we hear over and over and over is that they're just overworking the visual FX artists and stuff like that.
That's another,
like, they're just rushing out way too many projects.
Yeah, because I think like if all those projects, if everything that we got from Phase 4, and even if it was just the stuff we got from Disney Plus, if it was tight, solid, and looked fantastic, it'd be a very different conversation. But like, I just heard that what's it called? The director of Shang-Chi is going to do Kang Dynasty. Like, that's the director for Kang Dynasty, and I'm like,
okay,
right, and I'm like, do I remember that movie having any clear vision or direction? Like, do I remember that movie looking good?
That's a tall order.
Like, that's gonna be tough, and I don't remember that being like. And I'm just like
the Russo brothers, Sam Raimi. Those are totally. I want that director. When they had Edgar Wright on Ant-Man, like that was exciting.
Right, but like I Shang-Chi, like it was good enough until, like, you know, it fell off the rails the way that a lot of these Phase 4 projects do, where it's just like, oh, look, a CG fight, but like with less good CG than we're used to. Why did this happen? You know, like,
I will say, and this could be fight choreographer. This might not have anything to do with the director, but if like going into my, like, if this is a Young Avengers movie with Iron Lad and everything fighting Kang, and it's more street level, then having that director who knows how to like choreograph cool fights, because the action in Shang-Chi is really fun.
It is.
That I'm okay with that. That would be cool.
I
that's
don't
like
know.
I don't know. That's the one thing I do remember specifically from some creativity. This is not just a studio movie.
Yeah.
It's like the action's fun. Like, it's fun to look at.
The first like 2/3 of it are great, and then we go to like essentially
we go to the other
camouflage, and it's like and they fight a dragon and a bunch of like undead crap, and I'm like, oh my god, do we have to do we have to Oz Great and Powerful this thing again? Like, do we need to have a giant CG? Like, I remember in Aquaman when out of nowhere there's just a Lord of the Rings fight at the end, and I'm like, this is an Aquaman movie.
I'm waiting for one of these movies to do what Wonder Woman almost did, where they're like, no, there is no big bad, and then Wonder Woman was like. And then someone at Wonder Woman Studios was like, "No, there has to be a big bad."
No,
like, but I'm waiting for a movie to end on
Ares.
there is no big bad. Like,
that
would have been such a great ending to that movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
that movie's fine, but alas.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
There's a show I watched. I think it might still be on. I think it's like it's Aziz Ansari's show. I don't remember what it's called. I think it was a Netflix show, but like, someone in the comments will know. It's like, it's the first season of it, at least, is one of the weirdest shows I've seen, because there's no conflict. Mm-hmm. It's just like, and this isn't a criticism, it's just strange, and it works, because it's just like, this is just like a slice of life show about nothing. But it's not like a comedy, really. It's just like things are happening, and it feels odd that like you expect in a scene somebody to like be offended and they aren't, and it's just like that. I feel like that would be an interesting take for a superhero movie, to be like, hey, there's no villain. This is just 2 hours of the Avengers like hanging out. I would watch the hell out of that.
Getting shawarma. The goal of the movie is to get shawarma at the end, and they're constantly
everyone's
distracted.
like, people are talking about how they like don't sleep on Age of Ultron, and actually, it's great. No one doesn't love the scene where they're all just hanging out in the Stark Tower.
The party scene,
like
it's
the party
so
scene, which they had to
great.
fight for, and I'm like, that's what we're here for. Like, you know, as much as I'm sure that the last fight against Thanos from Endgame is the most replayed sequence, like in cinema history,
Sure.
the next one has to be them coming up with the time heist.
Yeah,
It's just fun to watch them all interact with each other and come up with ideas and play up. I mean, you know, I always bring it back to Star Trek, but like part of the fun that I have with those original movies is watching the band all get together and interact with each other. And it's like, it's so earned. By the time you get to Endgame, watching like Tony and Steve and Natasha like lying on a table eating sandwiches, talking about like, whoa, if we play our cards right, we can get 3 Infinity Stones in one time in one city. And it's like, that'd be like I love those moments. The scene where like, you know, Scott's got tacos. Like everything about that is just like, look at everybody interacting with each other. And it's fun to rebuild that. I think the most replayed scene in Hawkeye is probably watching Black Widow and Kate Bishop talk to each other over macaroni.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It's the best scene from the
It's a good scene. Yeah, I like
show.
It's that like that little bit of like decompression storytelling that we have a lot in comic books, especially in like a run like New Avengers. Is a lot of that like they're not constantly being bombarded by a universe threatening like entity. Like Galactus isn't showing up every day. Like sometimes you just have to hang out in the tower and make a sandwich, you know?
Well, or sometimes they can fight a villain that's easy to fight.
Right. And I think that's like Age of Ultron is that to an extent because like Ultron isn't really like he didn't really have a lot to do with the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
Like there are Infinity Stones in that movie. Obviously, Vision is very important to it.
Yeah.
But in a vacuum, that's just a story about the Avengers fighting a villain.
Yes.
And I think that's why there's room for that party scene because you know there's room to breathe. Like
exactly.
Like, I watched Infinity War last night, and there's so many moments in Infinity War, like character moments, where it's like, man, this hits pretty well because it's well written and well acted. But imagine if we had more scenes with these characters to show like their relationship together and how it's grown. Like they talk about like the trio of Widow, Cap, and Falcon.
Yeah.
Them like coming back and saving Wanda and Vision. Is it like that hits well because of Winter Soldier. If Winter Soldier didn't exist and we didn't get to see those little moments between them three like form their friendship, that wouldn't have hit as much. Seeing them all back together working as a team. So just more of that. I want more of that. I don't know how we got here.
Going back to Phase 4, that's kind of, I feel like that is actually what is missing from Phase 4 with no interlinking. They don't have to heavily link, like going all the way back to Sam Wilson showing up in the Ant-Man movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
all that kind of stuff.
Just little small moments like that.
Or the Shield just showing up in Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like instead of taking the time to give us a worthwhile Easter egg that showed that all of this was linked together in some way, they regulated it all to mentions.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that Thanos thing happened. Oh, Ant-Man's got a podcast. Like that. Like that's what we got. Those are the mentions.
Which apparently that is going to be a very important plot point for Quantumania.
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit for that.
Where is that podcast? Like, hey, Marvel,
can we see
Synergy, like,
it?
what? You know, Paul Rudd, sit down, record like 10 4-minute long like snippets of the podcast, right? Like,
that's precedent for that.
Like,
He did the interview with when he was in prison. They did they shot a short where they interviewed him.
Yeah,
that was fun.
I'm going to wrap up the discussion here because I think what we can overall agree with is Phase 4 just ended up being too long with what apparently was no direction.
Yeah,
and it didn't help that they were saying things like, "Yeah, we're kind of just trying things out, seeing what we like, what we want to do."
Yeah, I will say at least they did
But then
that.
when you show up. Huh?
At least they did that. It wasn't like Feige's like, listen, it all connects. Trust me. Phase 4 is going to make sense. Like, he was just like, no. Just, look, you're all inside. Enjoy all this shit we're making.
Yeah.
We're taking a break for like a year and a half.
But that's Phase 4. I'm happy it's over. Sal
Yes.
worded it best in the previous video. It's a mercy killing that it's coming to its conclusion.
Yeah.
I'm happy to move into Phase 5. I think Phase 4 is going to be like the blemish on the MCU. We're going to come by and be like, 1, 2, 3 were great. We don't talk about 4.
We don't talk
5
about
and 6 are great.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't rewatch Moon Knight or anything. It's okay.
Or it's gonna turn into like, what's Phase 4? That was the Spider-Man phase. They just did a Spider-Man movie.
Right. Yeah, remember No Way Home? Oh, so great. Was that Phase 4?
It got a whole phase to itself. It was so good.
Yeah.
All right, we're absolutely thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time right here.